members, and other esteemed guests. Good evening and welcome to the 2025 Mayoral Forum, the first of its kind to grace our doors here at the Humphrey School. My name is Natalia Uro de Leon, and I am honored to serve and represent the student body as president of the Public Affairs Student Association. I'm delighted to be opening tonight's event for a few reasons. The main one being that this event has been a shared goal for our PASA admin and our students for 5 months. We've been planning this with heart and grit and navigating curveballs with grace and support from our amazing faculty members. The tremendous amount of work, creativity, and professionalism displayed by over 30 contributing students, an incredible team of faculty members made tonight possible. A special thanks to Ryan Allen. Though he could not be with us today, we are incredibly grateful for his contributions and support throughout the planning process. We are thinking of him and his family this evening. In sum, this event truly reflects the collaborative spirit of our institution, echoing the values of our namesake, Hubert Humphrey: an unwavering commitment to civic engagement, progress through responsive governance, and an inclusive form of engagement. We carry these values into tonight's programming as we navigate a constructive dialogue. We will be exploring perspectives and policy platforms that intend to advance peace and progress for our city. To speak more on our guiding principles for tonight's programming, I am honored and welcome to the stage our moderator for tonight's forum, Madam Vice President Rachel Beatty. Give her a hand.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rachel Beatty, and I serve as the Vice President for the Public Affairs Student Association. And I have the privilege of moderating tonight's Mayoral Forum. Our forum is organized with the principles of constructive dialogue at its core, engaging across differences, listening with respect, and creating space to understand the full range of perspectives. We are grateful to all the candidates who have joined us tonight to engage in this dialogue. So please, welcome to the stage, Mayor Jacob Fry. Mrs. Brenda Short. Mr. Jazz Hampton. Dr. Dwayne Davis. And Senator Omar Fateh. Thank you all for being here. To ensure fairness and focus, there are a few guidelines. Each candidate will have equal time to respond to questions. During the first portion, questions written by students and pre-shared with the candidates will be asked, with no rebuttals. During the second portion, audience questions submitted through Slido will be curated and asked. In this round, candidates may offer 1 rebuttal per question, limited to 30 seconds. We also ask for your cooperation in maintaining the spirit of constructive dialogue. Please show your support through clapping only. We ask that you refrain from cheering, calling out, or other campaign-style behavior. The purpose tonight is to give our community the chance to hear from each candidate in their own words, to compare ideas, and to learn how they would approach leadership of our city. We encourage you to take this opportunity to really listen, not just to the candidate you may already support, but to all the candidates. Minneapolis uses ranked choice voting, which makes it especially important to understand the full scope of perspectives and policy ideas represented here. So we are going to begin with part 1, which is the structured Q&A. These are questions written by Humphrey students and shared in advance with all candidates. Our students develop these questions through the lens of their academic programs, from urban and regional planning to human rights to public policy and more. They reflect the issues our students are studying, researching, and preparing to take on in their own careers. Please carry these considerations into your responses and respect the contributions of others engaged in this forum. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond. Again, there are no rebuttals in this round. The focus is on hearing your positions on these policy questions rather than a critique of another candidate. So please give our student presenters a warm welcome.
Hello, my name is Lee Eubanks, and I'm a student in our Urban and Regional Planning program. I wanted to ask, as mayor, can you describe some of the strategies you will employ to involve community members in decision-making and stimulate civic engagement, especially among historically underrepresented groups, including youth, BIPOC, and low-income communities?
We'll begin with Mayor Jacob Fry.
Humphrey School, we're so honored and grateful to be here with you. Thank you to our moderator and Rachel, and to all of you who are joining here today. My name is Jacob Fry. I am the mayor of Minneapolis, and the work that we do is critical to include community engagement. Some of the best ideas that I have had are not my ideas at all. They come from people throughout Minneapolis. We have set up a community cabinet that is beautifully diverse from every background and age demographic, religion, and ethnicity. That cabinet advises me on a regular basis, but it's not limited to those advisory assistants at City Hall. We go directly out into community to hear from people. We hire people from a diversity of backgrounds. And if you look at our cabinet, if you look at the people that we have hired into leadership positions, what I recognize is that so much of the work is done at the staff level, and so much of those recommendations come up to me and are dependent on them having a diversity of perspective. So when we hire people on, we make sure that they are beautifully diverse from a variety of different backgrounds. Second, we make sure that we tell the truth, no matter how hard it is. Third, we make sure that we work hard, because you all are paying us to show up to work every single day to do a job. And then finally, we try to do the right thing. The right thing is up for debate, but you have that debate. You have it respectfully, then you move forward with a position that is for the betterment of the whole city.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Fry. Next, we will hear from Mrs. Brenda Short.
Thank you. I want to meet the community where they are. If that means I have to come to wonderful schools like this, or go to someone's job, like our hospitals, I will need to hear from each and every community member and people who work in our city. People don't understand that the common man works 2 to 3 jobs, and they may not have the time to go to City Hall. But I plan to have conference calls or just conference messages set up that if you, in the middle of the night, upset about something, you can send me a video or a phone call and send it straight to my email, and I will respond back to you that way, so you can listen to it at the same time you have time, because I know I don't have all the time in the world running for office. So that's how I want the community to reach out to me when they have it, and even ask me to come and meet them where they are. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jazz Hampton, and I am honored to be running for mayor of Minneapolis as well. I think this question is incredibly important, and I'm glad that we're starting with it. For far too long, when people are raising their voices and the feedback that they have for a city, it is often the voices that have the most power and the most connections to the office that have their voices heard. Often it's marginalized communities, low-income individuals, especially communities of color historically within the city of Minneapolis, as the namesake of this very building knows so well. We have to do more than just setting up office hours and having standing time for community members to come into City Hall. It's more than just town halls. We have to go out and meet individuals where they are at that time. That means the meetings won't be held within our office, they'll be held in their communities. That means they won't be held consistently at 8 a.m. or at 6 p.m. because that's when a lot of folks are working their jobs. My wife, who loves me dearly, has not even been able to come to the caucus process because we have 3 kids and we couldn't find a babysitter to be there during that time. We have to meet families where they are in this moment. And so having just office hours within City Hall and having town halls every quarter is not enough, but that's the baseline that we've set within this group. And just yesterday on social media, I posted a video explaining that I will be coming to your community, towards that support me or challenge some of the programs that I have put into place along with the City Council, because that's what good leadership does. You show up in those community spaces, at the coffee shops, not just in City Hall. And that is what I'm dedicating to consistently do, not only quarter after quarter, but month after month. And if we aren't there to hear that feedback and then implementing it, then we aren't doing our job. And here's my favorite quote that my brother always says. He's the smartest of the family, I guarantee it. He says, "Don't ask a question if you aren't ready for the answer." And the dedication that we're going to give you after hearing your input is that we are going to implement changes based upon that to our best abilities. And we're going to do that collectively as a city unit. And I look forward to doing it on behalf of all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hampton. Dr. Dwayne Davis, please.
Thank you so much to the Humphrey School. Thank you for being here. Some of you may not know, we have in this city a history of very active neighborhood associations. And there was a period in the history where those neighborhood associations throughout the city were very much engaged, not just as an outpost for the city, but a direct relationship where there was give and take, where there was information sharing. I want to reclaim that. Certainly, it was during that time there was a lot of funding for it, but we don't need all that funding. We just need the will to do it, to set up a process where we are engaged with what's going in every neighborhood, figuring out what you need, what you're looking for, what you're concerned about, and keep that relation going so that we can also push information out or take information in, bringing everybody into the process in a deeper way. But I also think that there's an opportunity here too. I think the city should be regularly offering what I call citizen education opportunities. And what that means is really getting into the heart of what's going on. Right now, we have an administration in Washington, D.C. that is threatening us every day. It is threatening our immigrant communities and is threatening to send military and National Guard into our city. This will be a wonderful opportunity for the city to gather across the city, telling you what we're going to do, telling you what our options are, telling you what your options are. And this could be all kinds of process. We are also in the middle of we have a zero waste plan that we have to meet. This would be an opportunity to educate people about how to help us meet our goals, our climate goals, our zero waste goals. The idea is have an ongoing relationship with our community so that you're engaged at every level with what we are trying to accomplish, but also getting information so that you can get involved when you have the time and energy and will. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Senator Fateh?
Yeah, thank you to the Humphrey School for allowing this space, and thank all of you so much for joining us tonight. I agree with all of my colleagues here and what they said. I want to add a couple things. First, as senator, I learned firsthand that it's important to engage with community in both educating and in getting educated, because the people being impacted are the ones that know more about the issues that are impacting them. I've seen firsthand as a senator what our community can accomplish together when they're involved in the decision-making process rather than having policy made and explained to them afterwards. And what do I mean by that? When we engaged with our students after I became the chair of the Senate Higher Education Committee, we had our first ever student day. They came to testify. They took time away from work, away from their schoolwork, and they helped formulate policy around what tuition-free college could look like, on top of ending campus hunger and dealing with some of the mental health struggles that they've been educating us on. And so we formulated something called the North Star Promise, which was tuition-free college for working-class families, on top of ending campus hunger grants, and on top of 24/7 mental health resource hub. And that came across the finish line because students locked arms with us at the Capitol, testifying, speaking to legislators, talking to them about why this is important, and had the caucus make it a priority to say, we got to get it done this year. We had the same thing with our Uber and Lyft drivers, not knowing how to even, what the legislative process looked like, but knowing what they wanted, engaging with us, and they took down 2 multi-billion-dollar corporations, and I think that's powerful. And so when we engage with community and we speak with them and we learn from them, but we can also do some educating as well, I think that's the formula in which is better than just bulldozing some policy and saying, this is what we're having, this is the reality, and here's why it's having. People don't want to be talked to, they want to be talked with. And so that's the policy I would engage with. And thank you.
Thank you, candidates, for your thoughtful responses. Next is another student asked question.
Good evening. My name is Sam Behrens. I am a Master of Urban and Regional Planning student here at the Humphrey School. And our question for the candidates is, the Minneapolis 2040 plan promises to address racial and economic disparities. However, many marginalized communities are still waiting to see actual results, especially regarding the opioid crisis, transit access, and environmental justice. What specific steps will you take as mayor to ensure the plan's benefits actually reach the people most impacted by past disinvestment and neglect?
We'll begin with Mayor Fry. Thank you.
We've got maps at the city that date back about 100 years that quite literally designate the north side as a slum for blacks and Jews. And then when you combine that with intentional segregation, restrictive covenants that run with the land, intentionally separating communities from some of their most vital assets, like the riverfront, by a whole lot of heavy industrial, followed by a massive highway, you get results that match the precision of the harm that we initially intended. And then when you no longer could do those things explicitly, we then started to do a lot of the same things implicitly through a zoning code, setting it up so that unless you could build a really big home on a really big parcel, you couldn't live in huge swaths of the city. Pushing back on this kind of intentional segregation, allowing for a diversity of housing options in every neighborhood, is a big reason why I got into politics from the very beginning. And so we passed the 2040 plan. We were the first city in the country to get rid of the kind of exclusionary zoning, and specifically single-family home exclusive zoning. We allowed duplexes and triplexes. We allowed additional density and affordable housing on corridors that previously didn't really allow for it. And the work, it speaks for itself. Right now, Minneapolis is largely recognized as the top housing city in the country. We're producing 8.5 times the amount of deeply affordable homes since before I took office. 8.5 times. We have managed to keep rents down more than virtually any city in the country. Check it. You don't need to take my word for it. And that's because of this work that we have done to increase supply. That's because of this work that we have done to create affordable housing options. Are we there yet? No. Does the 2040 plan still have time left to go before 2040 hits? Yes. Do we need to focus on transit and equity and everything else? Yes, but we are taking the right steps and we got to keep that momentum going.
Thank you, Mayor Fry. Candidate Short, we'll hear from you next.
First, we need to handle our safety. It needs to be safe in every corner of our city. That means in our transit, that means in our streets, that means downtown, that means everywhere. Without safety, we wouldn't even have a 2040 plan because we wouldn't be here. Then we need to make sure that our transit also have guards on every transit and our trains, because regardless of anything, we see them on the platforms, we now need to see them on the transit, because people get their purses stolen and someone gets off the bus or the train. That needs to stop. We need to make those transit cleaner, because sometimes when we get on the bus or the train, I don't want to sit down. And we need to slow down on our development, because the American dream is to own a home and to pass that home on to the next generation, to the next generation. If we keep on allowing our developers to take up all the land, there will not be land to build a home or pass it on. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Short. Candidate Hampton.
Thank you. When I talk about the 2040 plan, I often feel and express kind of like I feel about the Affordable Care Act. Thank goodness that we passed this, but we have some work to do on this plan to make sure it's fully reaching the potential that we all hoped that it would. So let's talk about some of those things specifically around the question. One, when it comes to transit and connectivity, yes, the plan has in it specifically enumerated that we have to improve density around transit, but we haven't gotten to that goal. One of the reasons you sometimes miss goals is because you don't set a point to aim at. Zig Ziglar says if you don't know what you're aiming at, you'll hit it every time. We have to improve the goals and metrics that we're setting around the density that we actually grow, not just saying that we're improving the number, but trying to hit a specific number. And the similar thing can be said about the work that we're doing around environmental justice. We have to close places like the Herc down, which are making 200,000 people that live within a few miles of it sick. But that powers homes, and that also means we're going to lose jobs. In that transitionary period, we need to ensure that we're employing the people that are being marginalized and hurt and become sick from living in proximity to that building, providing jobs for them in this transition time as well. It needs to be a part of the plan that we continue to build going forward. And that lastly, when it comes to the opioid portion of the question, we need to have housing first solutions that address addiction services directly in proximity to those services. We can't house someone in one part of the city and then tell them their addiction services are in another part of the city. And in the last 30 seconds that was just raised, I want to talk really specifically about the parcel sizes. If we are saying that we have to have more dense housing, my kid's favorite playground, which is in southwest Minneapolis, when I take them there, there's a brand new quadplex of two houses that were taken down and now quadplexes there. $850,000 per unit per door. That isn't the kind of density that we're trying to build right now to give more affordable housing, and we have to provide incentives to do just that within the 2040 plan as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I've been in politics for a very long time, and I've been on commissions. I've seen reports, and the first thing when I heard that question about what would it take to ensure that the plan's benefits reach the people who have been most impacted by disinvestment, the first thing I have to say is work the plan. Work the plan. The first goal of the 2040 plan is eliminate disparities. They're very big. And then it has a whole list of action items, and one of the things that stands out in those action items is coordinated, comprehensive investment in underserved communities. And I live in one of those underserved communities. I live in North Minneapolis, and I walk down West Broadway often. And I tell you, it doesn't look like we're getting the kind of investment that the 2040 plan talked about. We have abandoned buildings and vacant lots. And so when I see that coordinated, comprehensive investment, my question is, let's work the plan. Let's do that. Let's invest in long-term housing. Let's invest in transportation. Let's invest in public health. Let's make sure that those communities are getting the benefit of the attempt to eliminate disparities. But I even want to go a little bit further. One of the ways you also can be reminded of how to work the plan is to center the voices of those who have experienced that neglect. They are uniquely situated to report to you how fast you're going or how slow you're going. And I hear it often in my neighborhood. As soon as I took on this opportunity to run for mayor, I have heard from my neighbors just the frustration of all of the promises that have not been met. So I'll say it again. Work the plan.
When the lawsuit came out against the Minneapolis 2040 plan, I was honored to carry the legislation at the Capitol to fight back against that. And together we won. We pushed back on it, and we knew because of that lawsuit that there was a backlog of projects that couldn't get done. And now that opened the way for it. What we know is we need to have a more connected, a more walkable city, and we need more transit-oriented density. But we have to tackle some of the issues around environmental racism also that has been brought up by the folks on the stage to my left. And that includes things like the Reimagine I-94 project, right? In which we've been having a back and forth with MnDOT around the act rate option, which is something that community wants. And the last question was about community input. How do we improve that? Well, that's one way is by not eliminating the options in which community is loudly and clearly saying we want. And I think that's one of the approaches we want to take. We want to make sure we're building more multi-unit housing for larger families. But we got to think about 2040, 2050, and beyond. And what I mean by beyond is areas of low density, for example, neighborhoods of low density. And I've heard this from neighbors also, that we have to include local businesses in those neighborhoods to promote walkability, making our city more walkable. I appreciated the Reverend bringing up the community investment aspect of the plan as well, because that's something that's near and dear to me. Last biennium, I was honored to bring in $42 million in local investment for our communities, for District 62, for communities and neighborhoods that have been historically neglected. And that was the second most amount of dollars appropriated by any Democrat in the Capitol. And I was proud to do that. And that's the kind of work we need to do for North Side, for South Side, for areas that have been disproportionately impacted by environmental racism, with folks suffering from the highest rates of asthma and lung disease and cancer. And I think that's the right approach to take.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you all for your responses. Up next is our third student presenter.
Hello, everyone. My name is Evelyn Vasquez Ursua, and I'm a student in the Masters of Public Policy program. The city of Minneapolis continues to grieve tragic losses attributed to gun violence. In times of chaos and fear, could you please share how you intend to enhance safety and promote peace in Minneapolis? How will you support our communities as they develop and sustain neighborhood-led safety strategies?
Same order, please. Mayor Frey.
I was one of the first civilians on site following the mass shooting at Annunciation, and then also another one several days later. You see some things you never want to see, and you hear things that you never want to hear, and all those things are in large part caused by gun violence. It's not as if we don't have the answers here, because they were the same answers 5 years ago, and 15 years ago, and 25 years ago. Other countries around the world suffer these mass shootings, suffer gun violence, and they then say, you know what, that was awful, we're going to do something about it, and they make the necessary changes. The only difference is here in America, we don't. Because that we got more guns than we have people, we have weapons of war that are on our streets, and the answers are fairly straightforward here. But we got to work together, and we got to have the political will to get it done. We need to be banning assault rifles at the state and federal level. We need to ban high-capacity magazines at the state and federal level. And what we've been saying is joining together with a coalition of mayors to say, hey, if you all are either unable or unwilling to get it done, give us the ability to get it done. In cities, we're the ones that get the calls at 1:30 in the morning that yet another kid has been gunned down. I feel a very deep responsibility to the communities that I am charged with serving to keep them safe. And when you can reel off 30 rounds before you can reload, it is way harder to do that. But the work doesn't stop there. You work directly with communities. You work with moms and grandmoms. You have police officers working directly with community as well as our U.S. Attorney's Office. I'll give you just one example because my time is almost up. Due to some of that work, We have managed to drive down gun violence on the north side to rates lower than it has been since at least 2007. We need to make sure that we're doing that work throughout our entire city. We need to protect people from gun violence.
Thank you, Mayor Fry.
First, we need to start doing peace walks, making sure that our neighbors believe in not carrying a gun or securing those guns. We also need to start with our children from a young age, teaching them that guns are not safe. We need to make things positive for our children so they know that they can do other things than pick up a gun and try to rob someone for money, and start bringing back youth programs that give our youth, like these two, jobs for the summer. We need to make sure that we buy back guns, because there are a lot of guns that need to be bought back and secured, and not give them consequences when we buy those guns back. And make sure that our youth understand that they are not okay, and it's okay to talk to a teacher, a friend, or a foe to be okay. Thank you.
This one's important to me. I was a coach at Annunciation, and everything that's happened prior to this has touched me in a really personal way. We have been waiting for too long, and we should not wait any longer. I turned down a job to be a constitutional law professor at Mitchell-Hamlin School of Law, so I'll try not to get too far into this bag, but here I go. The state has a law that is called a preemptive law that prevents the cities from making stricter gun laws. It preempts us. But if you remember when Roe v. Wade fell, and some cities or some states already had laws that were waiting by the wayside, and they're called trigger laws that went into effect right away, we need to do the same thing immediately in the city of Minneapolis to pass ordinances that ban high-capacity magazines, that ban assault weapons, and have more strict rules around how you safely store a gun in the city of Minneapolis. And then we go to our legislative partners in the state, and when we talk to them, we say, we already have the rule in the books. The only thing that's preventing it from going into place right now is you. We need you to pass a preemptive carve-out that allows our city to be carved out. And this isn't the first time it would be done. It's already been done in Colorado. We do not need to wait anymore. We should do it now, and we should not wait any longer. The amount of people that have been shot and gun violence victims in the last 4 years is doubled to the 4 years prior to 2017. It's doubled. We have waited too long, and we have to act right now. And that's the immediate need that we have. The other, more long-term addressing work that we have to do is expanding the programs and things we have for young folks in the city of Minneapolis to do. Whether it's rec hours, park program connections, or after-school programs, that is the work that we have to do. Because if someone's under 18 and they can't vote for me, that does not mean they are not my constituent. And it's my job to pass the laws that will make them safer and give them better opportunities in life. We have to do it now. And I will be the mayor that is dedicated to doing that the first day I'm in office.
Thank you so much. I've worked on gun control at a federal level for 20 years, and we have a very, very organized opposition, very organized, that will try to stop any gun control lawsuit. But we must continue that fight, and we will still do that. And still, if we are successful in the state of Minnesota, if we are able to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazine clips, if we are able to do that, we are still surrounded by states who will have loose gun laws. And so we're going to have to really lean into our own power here, too. In essence, we need all of those gun control laws, and I will fight tooth and nail for them. But we also must do the work as a city. And so what I would task the Public Safety Commissioner and the Chief of Police with doing is developing a comprehensive violence intervention and reduction plan that is refreshed every year, working in coordination with the sheriff's office, with the county attorney, with the state's attorney, working with the state troopers. And we would, everybody, interagency collaboration, multi-jurisdictional collaboration, and we work our plan. We make sure that we are addressing the safety matrix in every corner of this city, whether it be our youth, whether it be violence interruption, whether it be behavioral crisis response, whether it be civic education. The idea is to be on top of how we're going to respond, not just to gun control, but the lack of control around us. Let's work what we can do. We are not hopeless or helpless in this work. We have many tools at our disposal to make sure that our families are safe, our streets are safe, and certainly that our children are safe. And that takes a lot of energy, will, and work. And I'm willing to do that. I'm going to start that day one.
We know the issue of gun violence and the tragic incidents are not just a city issue or a state issue, it's a national issue. And as senator, I've been proud to promote and support all legislation around gun control, whether it's from background checks to bans on assault weapons, weapons that are used for mass casualty events. And again, I think this is a situation in which just like when the federal government gets things wrong, then the state has to step up. And when the state doesn't do their job, then it's up to the city to step up and do their part and try to push the envelope as much as they can. We need to ensure that another thing, and this is why our conversations around public safety reform is really important, is that we need to ensure that we're clearing our case backlogs. And what do I mean by that? There's a lot of gun violence cases that have largely went untouched. And we know that when there's an incident of gun violence, when there is an attack, that more likely than not, it's going to happen again by that same person. And so we got to make sure that we're investigating and we're providing the resources to clear that case backlog and make that happen. But also, there's a couple of other reasons around why gun violence is happening. It's a symptom of poverty, mental illness. That's why we're running on a campaign on raising the minimum wage to $20 an hour, supporting our renters, working collaboratively and cross-jurisdictionally with our state and our county partners so that we have the mental health resources to support anyone and everyone that needs help. And I've seen it as a vice chair of the Human Services Committee, whether it's treatment or culturally appropriate settings. I think that's all of the above in which, as a city, we need to address and tackle.
Thank you, candidates. Here's our fourth and final student presenter.
Excuse me. So first, I'd like to thank you all for being here. My name is Jacob Roberts, and I'm a second-year student in the Masters of Science, Technology, and Environmental Policy program here at the Humphrey School. So on behalf of the school, the final question is, as mayor of Minneapolis, you'll have a lot of work to do here in the city. However, many of our challenges and opportunities involve other jurisdictions in the metro area. What sticks out to you as an issue that requires a cross-jurisdictional response, and how would you work with partners across the metro to address concerns that extend beyond our city limits? Thank you.
Mayor Fry.
Thank you, Jacob. And virtually every issue that we deal with requires some form of cross-jurisdictional response. And so you could go in the direction of housing, you could go homelessness, you could go environmental justice, you could go public works improvement, transportation, or safety. The one that comes most immediately to mind is something that virtually every major city is dealing with right now, which is addiction, and specifically addiction to opioids and fentanyl. I would imagine that virtually everybody in here has been directly impacted by some form of addiction to fentanyl, whether it's themselves or you know somebody, a loved one. And this is a drug that takes a hold of your system like nothing that we have ever seen before. It's cheaper and it's more potent in the form of fentanyl than virtually anything that we have seen before. And it requires a massive cross-jurisdictional response. And I'm proud to have the endorsement from the governor, Governor Walz at the state level, from Senator Amy Klobuchar at the federal level, from Sheriff Dewana Witt at the county level, and from a number of council members as well. Because here's the thing, we got to work together on this. And here's one of the ways that we can move forward specifically on opioids. We have recognized that it is very difficult to have people accept treatment and help when they're either very intoxicated or going through withdrawal. But there's a happy middle ground there. And if we can work with the other jurisdictions to get them a drug called Brixadi, which allows them to expand out that middle zone, we can get people the kind of care that they need to help. We've got a mobile medical unit that we use at the city that we can deliver services directly to where people are. We can work with our hospitals at Hennepin Health, and we can make sure that we've got the kind of assistance at the state level to make sure that people don't just get by, but they get better. This is one example, and I'm sure the rest of the candidates here can offer that one and probably 5 others as well.
Thank you, Mayor Fry. Ms. Short.
Once I become mayor, I would like to continue building a bridge with our suburban neighborhoods, such as right now I have a relationship with Edina's Chief of Police and Bloomington Police Department. See, I believe that our neighbors can always help us in a crisis, especially when we need safety in our city. And I can definitely take the lead and learn from our suburb cities, such as Bloomington and Edina, because they have done a great job of what making safe in their community feel safe. I would like to build those bridges between our community members and our peace officers. And you notice I said peace officers, not police officers, because we need peace in our community, not chaos. So I would like our community-based team to start building relationship with each community, even at school level, at our ward levels, because our community needs to know who's the officers that work in their neighborhood and who's the contact they can reach out to when they need help. Thank you.
One of the things that we can really improve within the city of Minneapolis in these cross-jurisdictional relationships is public safety. And when I say public safety, I mean the entire umbrella, within it being police officers, behavioral crisis response teams, fire, and everything in between. I had the opportunity last week to sit in the 911 call center and shadow for 2 hours, listening to the calls coming in, watching how they were sent and resources were being dispersed, and hearing directly from the folks that were working there, telling me that they had worked 5 years of overtime in 11 years that they have worked there. 17 years of working in 11 years. We are understaffed and overworked, and it's leading to a lack of results that we cannot stand for anymore in the city of Minneapolis. We need to work with other jurisdictions that have police forces that are beaming with additional folks that would love to build a pipeline here. They just need to know that there's trust within the community and the public safety system to make them feel welcome in this moment. We need to let them know that if they move here and they live here, they'll have even better experience than they did in the rural suburb that they're working in. We need to talk to the 911 operators in other cities and counties and let them know that our work is now being paid just as well, and the 10+ dispatcher spots that are open that need to be filled right now can be filled by those partners across our jurisdictional lines. And then when it comes to responding to 911 calls dealing with opioid-based needs or with our neighbors that are unhoused, we can build out a larger team than the 4 or 5 folks that currently work on our homelessness response team. That could be a constant call line that could be going nonstop within the city of Minneapolis. We don't even feel comfortable calling 911 or another hotline when we see one of our neighbors sleeping outside. We need to have a system that we can work with Hennepin County and the state level to partner and say, every time we see this, we know there's a resource and a number that I feel comfortable calling. And we'll be able to deliver resources and they'll show up that day. That's the work we need to do cross-jurisdictionally, and that's what I'm dedicating to do as your mayor here in Minneapolis. Thanks.
Cross-jurisdictional cooperation is very critical at this time, and my colleagues are all, like I said, they are going to have many of those things because it's just that relationship. It needs to really be strengthened given what's coming out of Washington. But I want to do a prospective one. This administration, the federal administration, has determined that it is going to make very, very deep Medicaid cuts. And I'm someone who worked on Medicaid for many years, and I'm telling you, Medicaid the tentacles of Medicaid go very deep. And so if those cuts go through, we're going to have a public health crisis that we have never seen before. And so I want to talk prospectively. especially if Medicaid is cut to the level that they're suggesting. Our rural hospitals are going to close, and many of those people are going to come toward the metro area. And this is where we really are going to have to be creative in our coordination, not only with Hennepin Healthcare, not only with federally qualified health centers, not only with our universities, but also with all kinds of cities and their public health departments. In essence, this is going to be an all-hands-on-deck, whole-of-government effort if those cuts come through. So I want to talk prospectively. These relationships have to be firmed up. We are going to have to begin to think differently about how we do healthcare delivery and how we do preventive services. And right now, I am worried about what it's going to look like. But I think this is an opportunity where we're going to have to figure out how to change our ways of operating and how we're going to change the way we've done work, how we're going to look differently at what offices are doing what, and how much restructuring is going to happen so that we're going to have to take up and make up the gap that's going to happen to us with Medicaid.
Yeah, this cross-jurisdictional approach is going to be extremely important, especially now with a federal government that's going to threaten cities like Minneapolis with being iced out from receiving federal dollars. And that's why we got to partner with our state and with our county more than ever on issues like our unhoused neighbors, ensuring that we're providing those case-by-case individualized plans, not bulldozing folks block by block, but making sure that we're providing a housing-first approach, providing wraparound services, providing treatment for people. That's going to take work. That's going to take money. That's going to take partnering with folks like folks at Hennepin County, which, by the way, has the experience doing it. They've done things like ending veterans' homelessness. So we know what works. We know the services and the type of work that needs to be at play. I'm honored to be supported and endorsed by 6 out of the 13 city council members as the first choice option, including our president and our vice president, endorsed at the county and state levels, including to progressive Democratic legislators, as well as the Blue Dog moderate members, including the chair of the Human Services Committee, who's ready to get to work with me on day one should I become mayor of Minneapolis. And we need to move towards the direction, continuing towards not criminalizing addiction and poverty, but doing the real work. I had a legislation around the legalization of fentanyl testing strips after hearing a story from a constituent who lost their brother from an overdose, an accidental overdose, like many of us having insurance issues, taking some painkillers and dying. And so a year after the implementation, we got a report in the Star Tribune that showed Hennepin County passed out 1 million testing strips, 1 million. That's powerful work saving countless lives. And so we know when we get to work together, when we address the root cause of issues, we can not only bring in the dollars to make it happen, but we can save real human lives. And that's the work that I look forward to bringing.
Thank you all for your thoughtful responses. We are now moving on to the audience Q&A portion. The Slido, where you were able to submit questions, will be closing shortly to those in the public. Throughout this evening, you've had the opportunity to submit questions through the Slido. Our student team has been curating those submissions to make sure we capture the breadth of community interests and avoid duplication. This round is meant to reflect the voices of the broader public, community members, students, and organizations in the room, and ensure a wide range of topics are addressed. How this section works is each candidate will have 2 minutes maximum to respond, and in this portion, rebuttals are allowed. Each candidate has the option of 1 rebuttal per question and are limited to 30 seconds. Again, we ask that you keep your celebrations to clapping and avoid any cheering. So now to begin with our first question. What responsibility does the City of Minneapolis have to provide affordable housing for its residents? What specific policies would you introduce to ensure that renter households in Minneapolis are able to comfortably afford a quality place to live? Mayor Fry, we will begin with you.
Can you repeat the question one more time? Because there was a different one that was on the screen.
Oh.
Yeah.
our screen.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, well, specifically thinking about the powers of a mayor in Minneapolis, can you describe what responsibility Minneapolis has to provide affordable housing for its residents? What specific policies, such as rent control, would you introduce to ensure that renter households in Minneapolis are able to comfortably afford a quality place to live?
As I mentioned, one of the main reasons that I got into public service to begin with was housing. I believe that housing is a right, that everyone should have a safe place to go home to at the end of the night, to rest their head on the pillow and to rejuvenate for the next day. And right now, not enough people have that right in our state, in our city, and in our country. And so we've been doing the hard work to make sure that more people have access to affordable housing. We have invested hundreds of millions of dollars in affordable housing. We have focused more than ever before on deeply affordable housing. And just so that I define it, that is housing at 30% of the area median income and under. Housing so that people who are experiencing homelessness have that next rung on the ladder to pull themselves out. Oftentimes, they haven't had that. And because of that, not only is that immoral because you keep them homeless, but it also costs like 2 to 3 times as much money because it costs more to have a person cycling through homelessness and shelters and sometimes jail or hospitals than it does just to get them a home. So we're producing 8.5 times the amount of deeply affordable homes since I took office. We've done the necessary work to increase supply to keep down the rents. And no, I have not supported rent control. Why? Because it doesn't work. It has not worked in any city where it has ever been tried. And sure, it was not easy to oppose it at the time. But sometimes, as mayor, you got to take tough positions because it's the right thing to do for the city. So do I support rent control? No, period. However, the work that we are doing around housing is trying to be replicated by cities around the country. Feel free to look it up. Minneapolis is setting the trend that so many others want to follow, and we need to go even further to make sure that in Minneapolis, it is a place where everybody can call home.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor Fry. Yes, Ms. Short.
I believe in a program that I am wanting to implement, and it is called property tax stabilization. If we stabilize the property tax for the homeowners and the apartment complexes, they sign an agreement with the city that says your lease for these apartments or this project will be the same for the 3 years. That means renters have long-term lease instead of 12 months or 6 months. And that allows our renters to stay in our city longer, and that guarantees that property tax revenue. But also, we want to offer our property tax owners who do those, sign these agreements, forgivable loans and grants to make sure that their property will keep up. So every year, they will be offered a grant or forgivable loan, long as they stay in this program. I want our renters and our homeowners to stay in our city as long as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Short. Candidate Hampton?
Listen, the problem that we have in this conversation is the lack of availability of units within our city, both generally and for deeply affordable housing. We have a need that is outpacing what we have been providing, so we need to increase it. That means we have to work across with many different partners to do that work to increase it. When we're talking about for-profit developers, we need to ensure that they can streamline the process and that the permitting and the inspection times aren't slowing them down, because if it slows them down, they look at their profit and loss statement and they say it's not worth doing anymore, and they won't do it. We have to streamline those processes so it doesn't take as long. But here's the thing. We cannot rely on for-profit organizations to do that by themselves. They are looking out for their P&L, not for our people. right? So we have to ensure that we're also working with nonprofit organizations like PPL and others within the city of Minneapolis to expand the deeply affordable housing we're doing right now. There's organizations across the river and on this side of the river that are doing the work consistently and have a long track record, one that we can trust and we don't have to worry about where the dollars are being allocated to. We have to deepen our partnerships with those folks. And as we're showing proof that we're actually making the progress that we're talking about right now, that's when we go to deepen the amount of money that we can put in our affordable housing trust right now within the city of Minneapolis. Because when our partners at the county and state level see that we are actually doing the growth that is at least on pace with the need that we have, we will be more trusting partners that they can give more dollars to. And that comes with an improved relationships with our partners across county and state lines as well, or the state line as well. We have to do more building right now. Thank you.
You know, we do have a supply issue, a housing supply issue, and this, by the way, is a national issue. We have a housing supply issue, and you must be sure that we are getting supply. But again, one of the things that we have inadvertently done, and governments across this nation, including the federal government, has done, is that we have relied on privatizing housing. And so while we do need that spate of development of private housing, we also need to be as aggressive in our incentivization of nonprofit and public development of housing. We have a great number of great nonprofit developers here in the cities, Beacon Housing, Common Bonds, Project for Pride in Living, and even Claire Housing. These are just to name a few. But they don't have access to capital as easily and as often as the private developers do. And so what we need to do is to figure out a way to make sure that those entities have access to capital so they can have more projects, and they're the ones who can set rents. They're the ones who, I do not like the idea of the government setting rents, but if you have nonprofits who don't have to make a profit, they have and will set rent at 0 to 30 AMI. But they also have another advantage. They are also positioned to sell property to low-income people. That is, they can bring home ownership. They have the ability to do it, to turn that property over to people who would normally not be able to afford. But there are other things that we can do. We can incentivize property owners right now. One reason we have people living in dilapidated housing is because if a property owner makes improvement, he has to turn that cost over to people who already can't afford it. The city can get very much engaged, incentivize the improvement of properties, help property owners improve that property so that people's rents won't go up exorbitantly and they can stay in their homes at their rents. There are many ways that we can be sure that people have affordable housing.
Thank you, Candidate Davis.
Yeah, I'll try not to repeat everything our friends said right now, but I also believe that housing is a human right and that nobody should be paying more than a third of their income on housing. Last biennium, we invested historic amounts, $1 billion into housing. I led and I carried as a chief author millions of dollars for MPHA, Minneapolis Public Housing Authority, which never happened before, which was historic. We were able to pass a whole host of rental or tenant protection legislation. I think we need to build on that, and I think that we can build more housing, fully implementing the Minneapolis 2040, investing more deeply with cross-jurisdictional assistance in our Affordable Housing Trust Fund, making sure that we're protecting our renters. I do support rent stabilization. In 2021, a majority of voters said that they want us to do the work as the city to see what's possible for the city of Minneapolis in implementing rent stabilization. Yes, there's conversations around St. Paul and some of the challenges they face. We can learn from them. I believe that there was a lot of national issues going on, inflation and so on, but we can both have a rent stabilization policy, but also build more housing. I don't think it's either or. Number two, that's missing in the conversation, is that people need quality housing. Once they're housed, they need quality housing. And to do that, we need to pass things like TOPA, Tenant Opportunity to Purchase Act, so that we can keep the properties in the hands of community. I've seen many properties that I got to visit in Minneapolis, in Loring Park area, in which the folks were living with black mold and no heating, no AC. because the properties were bought up by entities in Los Angeles and California and Florida and Atlanta and so on. And these are folks that don't care about housing people, they only care about a profit, right? And so we got to keep our housing stock locally owned and not in the hands of people whose only motive is making a buck.
Thank you, candidates. We will now be moving on to the next question. President Trump has sent National Guard troops.
Oh.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sky. I'm a second-year Master's of Human Rights student. And the question that I myself and others want to personally address is regarding the federal government. President Trump has sent National Guard troops into many major U.S. cities and has threatened to deploy them into Minneapolis. How do you plan to respond should President Trump attempt to deploy the National Guard in Minneapolis? Furthermore, do you plan to strengthen the existing separation ordinance that prohibits local police from collaborating with ICE?
Mayor Fry, you can begin.
What Donald Trump is doing is evil, it is horrific, and arguably most importantly in this case, it is completely unconstitutional. He has been pushing National Guard troops into a number of different cities around the country, and here's the thing, he does not have the authority to do that. And so what are we doing? We are acting ahead of time, making sure that we're coordinated with our governor, who, by the way, is the one that controls the National Guard. Our governor decides when, where, how, and if to deploy the National Guard. You know who doesn't do that? President Trump. But we're not stopping there. We are preemptively suing in a number of areas, making sure that Donald Trump can't withhold federal funding in the event we do not comply with his truly hateful policies around immigration. And on that front, let's just be crystal clear. We stand with our undocumented immigrants. We stand with immigrants in our city. We will do everything possible to protect them. In Minneapolis, we do not think of them as undocumented immigrants. We think of them as our neighbors, and we love them, and they make our city a better place. Not only is that the moral thing to do, it's also the right thing to do to safety, to not cooperate with ICE and any of the other federal agencies around immigration enforcement action. Because here's the thing, you know what I want our police officers doing? I want them stopping murders from happening. I want them preventing carjackings from taking place. You know what I don't want them doing? Spending a single second hunting down a father who just dropped his kids off at daycare, who's about to go work a 12-hour shift, who happens to be from Ecuador. That man makes our city a better place. We're proud to have him in Minneapolis. Will I strengthen the separation ordinance? Look, we'll go as far as we possibly can to protect people in our city, including our immigrants, and that includes the separation policy as well.
Thank you, Mayor Fry. Candidate Short.
First, I want to remind you that we did have our troops, and Walsh was the person who brought the troops in our city the first time. I am a person that believes that my neighbors, regardless of what they look like, should be protected at all costs. So I would block them, even if I have to get arrested, because I believe my neighbors deserve to be here. I deserve to be here. We deserve to be here. I would not stand for Trump to bring any troops in our neighborhood to start removing my neighbors, because they're my neighbors and I want them here. Thank you.
yes, we have to strengthen the separation ordinance. And let me explain what I mean by strengthen. If people don't know exactly how to interpret the separation order, like our officers when they're going to one of these interactions, then we need to strengthen it to make it crystal clear which direction their boot should be facing when ICE and other federal agencies are coming in here to terrorize our communities. Oftentimes when they're coming in, they feel like they don't know exactly what they should be doing. I can tell you an example of it. When it happened, when the action happened at Lake and Bloomington, I was there. I watched a federal officer grab someone and throw them to the ground. And as he approached a second person, I stepped in between them and I personally separated the federal officer and one of our residents. That's not Jazz Hampton's job. That is the job of our city leadership and the folks that we put into place with a strengthened separation ordinance to ensure that we're keeping our residents safe. Because I absolutely agree, the last thing we need to be doing with our police department is sending them out to do other federal agencies' job. They seem that ICE currently has more of a budget than almost every single military in the entire world. They have enough resources. They don't need ours. Our job is to keep our residents safe, and that's what we need to do when we strengthen this ordinance within the city of Minneapolis. And I want to take this a step further because if you don't know my day job, I quit my corporate job to start a company called Turn Signal. It's an app that connects drivers to an attorney on a video call instantly when they've been pulled over. We serve over 200,000 people. And expanding that to more folks in this situation is the type of work we want to do and the type of work the city should be doing when we're connecting folks with legal services in this moment as well. And yes, as a lawyer and a con law nerd, I know that we need to stand up and preemptively fight the federal government from doing this. Because we literally have a criminal in the president that is coming to persecute and prosecute our neighbors. And it's our job to protect our neighbors at every turn in this action. And we're gonna do that in the city of Minneapolis. Thanks.
Yes, it goes without saying that we, as mayor, I definitely would have our attorneys being very aggressively preparing for injunctive relief, for lawsuits, all manner of ways of responding. But also, I think what's critically important, what I want to do is to be in conversation with the residents of Minneapolis. This is an opportunity to be in constant conversation about what our rights are, a conversation about what we're going to do, checking in with the citizens to make sure that you know what we're planning and how we're doing, and then what your role can be. How can you show up? What are your rights as a citizen if you see something going on? The city auditor said, of course, that we needed to make sure that the separation ordinance was clear or clearer. And I think that is important. That's the starting point. We know that in other jurisdictions, ICE is showing up at immigrant homes pretending to be local police officers. That is one of the risks that we have here. So we have got to be we have to work with our police department to make sure that we are assuring our residents, we are assuring our immigrant communities that the police under no circumstance will be coming at their door for an immigration action. It's not going to happen. And we have to make sure that we are providing that information, that we are working with immigrant families on the ground, reassuring them, letting them know what we're doing, and making sure that we know that ICE is not pretending to be our local police to gain entry into someone's home. These are things that we have to make clear. We have to set real protocols with the police department, but also be in constant communication and providing real on-the-ground, real-time help to our residents to make sure that they are safe in this thing.
As the chair of the Senate Higher Education Committee, I've gotten calls and I've heard heartbreaking stories of our students, our undocumented students, getting picked up off campus without their families not knowing where they're being detained, without their lawyers knowing where they're being detained by ICE, hearing those heartbreaking stories from families. And in speaking with college and university presidents, there is a real fear about providing any type of help or assistance, especially publicly, out of the fear of losing funding. And so right now, we have a federal government that's gonna put us in a choice between sacrificing your values or losing funding. And we cannot set the precedent, the dangerous precedent, of isolating and not supporting our most marginalized community members. I will not allow that to happen. That's number one. Number two, as a city, we have to build that front line of defense. And that includes working with the folks that are boots on the ground, because as a city, we cannot do it alone. Just like we heard about June 3rd on Lake and Bloomington, myself, many elected officials, we didn't hear about it from the city. We heard about it from folks that are the boots on the ground organizations, COPAL, UNIDOS, IX, telling us that ICE is here. And so when we're strengthening our separation ordinance, we have to make sure that the mayor and the administration immediately notifies our city council members so that they know what's happening, because they're sometimes the direct link to community, and they can disseminate that information so that we don't see the kind of anxiety and panic that we saw on that day. And I think that's something we can clearly do on day one, strengthening our separation ordinance, working directly in partnership with these community organizations that do know your rights counseling, legal trainings, and making sure that we're taking also a proactive approach and not a reactive approach.
Thank you, Senator.
Hello. Oh, can you hear me? Thank you all. So the next question is about rethinking I-94. So the Minnesota Department of Transportation, also known as MnDOT, is currently studying alternatives for the future of Interstate 94 through the Twin Cities. And they're planning to eliminate the Twin Cities Boulevard from further consideration, despite support from the community and the Minneapolis City Council. Would you be willing to withhold municipal consent to pressure MnDOT to further study the Twin Cities Boulevard as per the position of the City Council?
Mayor Fry, when you're ready.
Real quick, just point of order. Am I going first on all of the questions?
You know, we don't have, we can switch it up. Yeah? Okay.
I like going first, but sometimes, I like to
that's
get my
totally
thoughts in
fair.
order a bit too,
I'm new to this, but candidate Hampton, we would love to hear from you first.
Thank you, Rachel. I really appreciate this, and I don't mean to parse the question too much, but let me explain what I hear when I see this. Would you withhold municipal consent to pressure MnDOT? I would go and work with MnDOT in the first place. I don't have to withhold our consent at this point. I will further partner with them. I feel like a lot of questions we receive in this process are kind of like, hey, you found this thing in the kitchen, what are you gonna do now? It wouldn't be in the kitchen in the first place. We have to go and do the work with MnDOT actively alongside our city council. Every city council member, whether they're in Ward 2 or Ward 13, you know what their job is? It's to represent the constituents that live in that ward and to get their voices and to hear them. And it's my job as mayor, especially in a strong mayor system, to distill all of those voices down into progress that we can move forward on behalf of the city. So in this conversation, if we are hearing time and time again, just like we hear about what we should and need to do at Lake and Chicago, or 38th in Chicago, around how we can move forward there, if we're hearing it from businesses and from residents and consistently doing it, and we spent $2-point-something million on that research and question retrieval, then we know what we have to do already. We have to push for this work to go forward. So I think there are 25 steps that we can and should do before we have to withhold consent to pressure MnDOT. But ultimately, if that's what we have to do, that has to be a part of the conversation. Because again, not to withhold pressure to say this will never go forward or never happen. Will you withhold pressure to further study? Surely, if we can't further study, then we're already not having a real conversation in the first place. So I believe I would do exactly that in this conversation, and I would look forward to doing it alongside the city council members that represent the residents of this city. Thanks.
Thank you, candidate Hampton. Dr. Davis, you may proceed.
And one thing to be clear about this is where, again, we have to talk about cross-jurisdictional coordination with your conversation. By the way, the state legislature has already weighed in, not on this, but they've said that they certainly would not want to expand I-94 any further. And that's a starting point. So my point is, how do we bring this conversation to the state legislature? How do we have a fuller conversation? By the way, my only concern, again, on the other side of this is, I believe you study everything. That you should not be afraid of any information. If you are afraid of information, then you're already getting ideologically rigid. Let's study everything. Let's raise all the questions. Let's raise all the possibility. I spent 20 years in Washington working for appropriations. This is the spending bill. I spent a lot of time working on funding transportation projects. I was one of the staff creators of what was called the I-35 caucus, because we were trying to finance I-35 down from Texas all the way up to the Canadian border. And you can have all kinds of studies to figure out what you want to do. But you know what? How this is going to work? You have to work with state legislatures, with cities, with counties to figure out how you're going to do the next best thing. And I-94 is critical. That's a critical project to be talking about. But there's another thing you've got to consider. The state has to consider all kinds of things. One thing is that I-94 is a part of a regional economic corridor. So you have to raise a lot of questions about what's going to be different. How are you going to move goods? How are you going to move traffic? This is why conversation and study is necessary, so that we can find out what is the next best stage in doing the work that we're trying to get to.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Senator Fete?
We need to add another lane to I-94. No, I'm joking. We're not Plot twist. This is something that's really important to me, and as a state senator, part of the Minneapolis delegation, I've tried to attend every single meeting, and if not, have my staff attend the meetings. And what I've seen is that time and time again, community has shown up, voicing their concerns, educating not just us, but other community members on the historical context about how I-94 came to be and the generational impacts and harms that have come about afterwards, and the racist past. And as a state legislator, I can say that, and as a former MnDOT employee, that MnDOT has not been listening. And it's been very clear. And I've carried legislation around the Highway Justice Act. I've carried legislation around ensuring that committee members, such as myself, our commissioners, our folks that are attending these meetings, can have a voice in voting on what we need and what the community wants. Because what I've seen time and time again is that community members have said we need to study and pursue the at-grade Boulevard option, and they've made that very clear. But what has been clear to me is that it seems that MnDOT has pre-made their decisions on where they want to guide the conversations around. But as mayor, I would use my leverage and my power to attend every single meeting, to make sure I'm standing with community and pushing towards a more just resolution for the project, and making sure that the at-grade Boulevard lives. And that's something that my personal belief is that needs to happen, and that community members and the members of the committee have to be listened to. And I'll do anything I use every tool at my disposal as mayor to do so.
Thank you, Senator. Mayor Fry, would you like to answer the question next?
I would, yes. We got to make sure that the precision of our solutions match the precision of the harm that was initially inflicted. And in the case of highways, that harm was precise. Take a look at where highways have been placed in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, around the whole damn country. This didn't happen by accident, guys. They got railroaded right through low-income communities filled mainly with black people. The white communities that were more upper class managed, to maybe have a highway around them so that they had quick access, but for the most part, there wasn't whole neighborhoods that were blown down. That happened with 94 and Rondo. That happened with 35W on the south side. That happened with 94 as you go north along the riverfront. You're separating a community from one of their most vital assets that they have, so much so that, I've talked to kids that grow up not far away from the Mississippi River, and they barely know it's there. Every other neighborhood has access to water, virtually. Every other region, I should say, of the city. You know, on the south side and southwest, you got access to lakes, public improvements, public access all around them. In northeast, you got access to the riverfront. But until recently, the north side did not have that access. And so what did we do? We created a plan. And that plan is now being executed so that in one of the first places ever, the north side can now actually touch the riverfront through Upper Harbor Terminal. And so do we need to improve the way that our highways function? Yes. Are there areas down the road where absolutely we can find ways to make them into a boulevard? Yes. We got to do it thoughtfully, we got to do it pragmatically, and we got to push back on some of the things that we've seen in the past so that we right the wrongs that happened the first go-round.
Thank you, Mayor Fry. Candidate Short?
Thank you. This project, and just like the Broadway project, is the same. And as Mayor Fry has stated, this is affecting the low income and the Black community at large. And this has to stop. I stand with the community because if the community comes together and speaks out, we as people who work for the community needs to start listening. I have watched community members go over and over to MnDOT projects only to be rejected, only to be saying, oh, this is the project and this is how we live. Majority of the Broadway project, a lot of people who just got their home or had their homes for generations are now having to leave it for this MnDOT program, just like 94. I am not trying to be a strong mayor, but I am trying to be a community mayor who listens to our community, and every word I hear, I will understand and stand with the community. Thank you.
Thank you all, candidates, for your thoughtful responses to these questions. This will be our last question, and we will begin with Senator Fateh.
What measures do you support to stabilize small businesses impacted by construction and transit improvements in Minneapolis?
Speak a little bit louder, I'm sorry.
Sorry, y'all, I'm short.
Okay.
What measures do you support to stabilize small businesses impacted by construction and transit improvements in Minneapolis?
That's a very good question. And so just a couple weeks ago, within the last couple of weeks, I had some business owners come to my office as a senator and speaking to me. One of them in which stated that because of the construction in front of their businesses on Hennepin, they had to shut down. And to me, that was heartbreaking because that wasn't just a business, it was a locally owned Black business. And someone that worked really hard to make it happen, someone that worked really hard to put their dream into reality, and not only losing their business, but losing their only source of income. And so, as mayor, I want to ensure that in any time that we are making decisions around construction, around any issues that would impact local businesses, that we're doing so in partnership with them and not after the fact. That's number one. But number two, if any of our decisions are directly impacting them, like our small businesses in this case, for example, I think it's right to provide enough grants so that they can cover their lease and stay afloat for the time being while the projects are taking place. I want to support a strong Office of Small Business Support so that it can be a one-stop shop for local businesses throughout the city, where folks can come learn how to start up a business, folks can come learn about some of the resources that are available, what grants are available, providing some zero-interest loans for folks, making sure that we're providing multilingual support for our small businesses, because I heard from community directly that that's another area of need. And so those are some of the opportunities that I would like to pursue to support our local businesses, in addition to providing information on some of the vacant areas in which we can plug them into so that our local communities can also thrive. And so I think that's the right approach that I would take as mayor.
Thank you, Senator. Dr. Davis.
One of the most disheartening things I heard was what happened to so many of the businesses in Uptown because of two major arteries being closed at the same time. And so it highlighted something that I think we need to do. Certainly, we need to bring these businesses on in the planning, that this is what's going to happen, this is the nature of the project, this is how long it's going to take, this is how disruptive it's going to be, this is what's going to be closed. But not only do we do that, we need to build into every major project, especially if you're going to close streets, we need to build in funding for anti-displacement. And just to make that clear, one of the most successful anti-displacement programs, you experienced it, it was during COVID. The federal government provided direct dollars to every resident and provided the Paycheck Protection Program to every business that had access to a bank. And that was anti-displacement. It was holding harmless all of us, because we knew that we were going to be displaced if people didn't have money in their pockets or if they lost their jobs. And so that's the same kind of approach we should take when we're going to make these major projects that are going to close streets. Right now, I'm in conversation with, in my neighborhood in North Minneapolis, the businesses and residents along West Broadway. They are very concerned about the Blue Line extension. Now, I am a big supporter of the Blue Line extension because I think we need multimodal transit options. But we definitely should be working with the county and with the state and the city to make sure that we have anti-displacement dollars, that as we hold harmless all of those businesses and those residents who might get displaced, because we have to pull up that street and lay down tracks for that Blue Line. That is only fair, and we should make sure that we carefully hold people harmless when we do it.
This being the last question, I just want to say thank you all for being here, and Rachel, thank you for moderating. You've done an incredible job. I appreciate it. Let me tell you a personal story about why I think this is incredibly important work. And I'll start by saying the two things we have to do is to rebuild trust with our small business owners and then show up in the way that we promise. I talked to a small business owner who opened their very first restaurant. It has like 7 tables in it and a bar. It's amazing. I love this place. When they opened it, they said that there was construction out front. It was going to take 6 weeks. It didn't take 6 weeks. It took 6 months. They had to take a second loan out on their business just to keep it afloat. And I talked to them this summer, and they said this is the first summer, 2.5 years later, nearly, that they actually reached the profit line that they thought they were actually going to hit. 6 months was too long. So yes, I agree that we need to offer those dollars that prevent the displacement that's going to happen, but we need to do more than that. We have to tell them a realistic timeline. And you know what realistic actually looks like? It's saying, if this is going to take 6 weeks, and that's what I'm promising you, and you're betting your business and that family, their 2 young child savings accounts on this, if it goes 6 months, we will provide extra dollars as well, because we budget and plan well, and we have confidence in the construction and what we're going to deliver. And if we don't have that confidence and we can't make that promise, then we probably aren't very confident in what we're telling them in the first place. We have to go beyond just the promises. We have to put some skin in the game as well. Because if they are not going to do it, I've already seen it. This happened on Hennepin Avenue. My own barber went to the north side because Hennepin Avenue was closed and they couldn't get services there. I talked to a small business owner on Lindale Avenue because it's coming there in 2027. The fear that they have seen from Hennepin has made a bar down the street close, and they're worried their customers are going to leave too. We've broken the trust, and we have to put some skin in the game to ensure that they know that you can be a small business owner in this city. I am one. I know how hard it is to be a small business owner, and we have to show up for them in a way that we haven't already. Thanks, and thanks for coming today.
I plan to support our small businesses by having small business weeks where we highlight specific small business. Like we love doing beer crawls. Why can't we do small business crawls in our communities? Our community needs to, when construction happens, as the mayor, should start communicating with our community to say, hey, I know these small businesses are not open or not working right now because of the streets. We need to start encouraging our community to start buying gift cards from these communities. This will help them, but also we should start, when those streets open, start having street parties in those communities, so that brings that foot traffic back to our communities. But while they do have constructions, I do support grants and forgivable loans from our city to make sure that they don't leave our city, because we need our small business to thrive, not leave our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Short. Mayor Fry.
Thank you to the incredible people here at the Humphrey for hosting. So many of you are the best and the brightest, and as we look to make hiring decisions, I can tell you that there have been countless instances when you have been the ones that have gotten the gigs at City Hall because you're just really skilled and you're really talented, and we enjoy working with you. But as for small businesses, I mean, look, they're the backbone of our city. We need to be looking out for small and local businesses because these are the people oftentimes that both live and work in our communities. When construction takes place, and we all know we've got 2 seasons in Minnesota. We've got, we got winter and we got construction. You got to do the construction, guys. And you also need to work with the small businesses to get them through. And I'm proud to have the support of countless small and local businesses throughout the city. Why do I have it? Because we've listened. When difficult issues come before the city council, we've listened. When hard things come up at the city, we've listened and then we've acted. It was mentioned that we need to make sure we've got a one-stop shop. Well, my administration implemented it. It was mentioned we should have business technical assistance. Well, we made that happen. It was mentioned that we need low-interest loans. We made that happen too. And then finally, it was making sure that we have multilingual support. This is the kind of support that we're now providing small and local businesses, but we're not even stopping there. We want businesses not just to be able to own the business, but also to own the underlying real estate, so that when the values go up because of their great work, they're able to realize the return in their investment. We're focusing oftentimes first on businesses that are owned by communities of color. So this is the kind of work that has a long-term impact. Do you make it all overnight? You don't. But you stick with it, you get the job done for the sake of our city.
I want to say thank you again to all the candidates for their time and their energy coming out to Humphrey tonight. Can we give them another warm round of applause? Thank you all, yes. So tonight truly represents what students at the Humphrey School share: an unwavering commitment to public service and civic engagement. I hope you leave this space with a renewed sense of civic empowerment. On behalf of the Humphrey School, I want to thank each of our candidates for being here and engaging in this important conversation. Your time, perspectives, and commitment to public service are deeply appreciated. I also want to thank the audience for attending and actively participating in this lively discussion, and of course, the students for organizing this event. And with that, oh yes, clap. And with that, I'd like to invite the president of our Public Affairs Student Association to close us out, Natalia Ura de Leon.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Can we all give a round of applause to Rachel Beatty for helping moderate this? As our candidates know well, we had a curveball last minute, and Rachel really stepped up, and I cannot thank you enough. Yeah. And on that note, that goes to our candidates. Thank you so much for your grace. This was a first for the Humphrey School. This was a first for our students, and to have your time and your presence here really made this event what it is, and it's incredible. So thank you. For those of you who may have not caught it in the beginning, I'm Natalia. I'm the president of the Public Affairs Student Association, and this has been in the works for 5 months. And this moment means so much to myself, to PASA, to all the student volunteers. Can you raise your hands if you helped tonight? All of these students here. Very good. We have Isaac in the tech booth. Thank you so much, Isaac. Woo! And if you saw me running up and down, like, please believe I was making Isaac evening so chaotic. So thank you, Isaac, for helping accommodate. But truly, this is a moment that I could not be prouder of for so many different reasons. The team of student leaders, administrators, community partners who are in this room right now, a few of you are demonstrated here on the screen. I really just can't say thank you enough for making this first possible and not our last. Our goal in organizing this forum was simple but ambitious. We wanted to create a space where ideas could be exchanged openly, where we could hear and talk about challenges that are facing our community, and really discuss ways to move our city forward towards peace and progress, and we did it. So thank you all. We know this work cannot be done alone, so I really appreciate all of you for making time on this Monday evening to come out. And please take time to engage with our candidates, their campaigns, the community partners you see on the screen during the Mondale Commons Civic Engagement Mixer. We'll have some great food from Holy Land and some bites, so please fuel your civic engagement energy and keep it going. But on behalf of the Humphrey School Humphrey School Public Affairs and the student body here, thank you all for being a part of the very first, but not the last, Mayoral Forum. We did it! Candidates, thank you very much, and feel free to stage right exit. Yeah, follow Jada. And
Oh, yeah, okay. Rachel, I'm going to take this because I think it's pretty.